We begin our report again tonight in this springtime of protest with mass arrests of pro-Palestinian demonstrators on college campuses across the nation. At UCLA Wednesday, the encampment there was declared an unlawful assembly, and its occupants were told to disperse. They didn't. After a roughly 9-hour standoff, police entered campus and forcibly took down the tents. More than 200 people have been arrested there. At Portland State University, officers cleared out a campus library that demonstrators had been occupying. On the other side of the country, at George Washington University, protesters clashed with police while attempting to put up a Palestinian flag. Just blocks away at the White House, President Biden delivered a message to the agitators Thursday morning.
So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law.
In New York, Mayor Adams said outsiders were responsible for much of the behavior that crossed the line. And Thursday, the mayor reported that a substantial number of the protesters arrested were, in fact, not students. Now we return to the West Coast, where CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti joins us now from the UCLA campus. Jonathan, what is the mood like now on the campus after all these last 2 nights?
Yeah, John, good evening to you. There's a growing sense of frustration in how the campus responded to this protest. You can see behind me, the encampment has been cleared out, but a much different scene from what we saw unfold live on television earlier this morning. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters had blockaded themselves inside using metal fences. They were joined in support by hundreds of other protesters on the other side of this blockade. Early this morning, as you mentioned, leading up to this story, UCLA declared this an unlawful gathering and warned that police would move in. Those warnings were unheeded, and around 2 o'clock this morning, police took action. Initially, they were blockaded by people, protesters who created a human link of sorts, locking their arms together. They then pushed through, firing these flashbangs that dispersed the crowd in what was an hours-long standoff that was marked by moments of chaos. When all was said and done, you had more than 200 people who were arrested, including at least 9 faculty members who joined in the protest. And I spoke with one of those faculty members who described his frustration specifically in the contradiction between the reaction today, the response this morning, and the response that police had just 2 nights ago here when counter-protesters showed up, what was described as a violent mob, as they threw things, different projectiles, into the group that was assembled here in this encampment, causing a lot of injuries. And for several hours, police watched on standby, not taking action. They finally did move in. They cleared out everyone, and there were no arrests. Those that we have spoken with wonder why there was so much leniency given to counter-protesters when there was such a reaction this morning to pro-Palestinian protesters, John.
And finally, Jonathan, classes are done soon. Summer break is about to begin. Is there any sense of what happens to the movement once the students are basically home for the year?
Yeah, it's a good question. At this point, the answer is unclear. So many of the pro-Palestinian students and protesters are calling for campuses to divest from companies that support Israel. We have seen Brown now taking steps considering this. It depends. If other campuses also start to consider whether or not to divest, we may see the protests calm down. If they don't do so, we may see those protests pick up and continue to gather for weeks to come, John.
Jonathan Vigliotti at UCLA. Thank you, Jonathan.